Hey, what's happening, everybody? Marc Farzetta, just doing a little last-minute stuff. Hey, welcome into the show, the Steven Singer Studios, most notably. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far at the time you listen to this, and really, why shouldn't you be? The Sixers won, the Flyers won, and the Eagles, they're gonna win, right? Like here's the thought that was rattling around in my brain after the show yesterday. Here's the thought. The thought was that I would feel better about this Eagles-Lions game if the Lions were 2-5 as well. I would feel better about them actually having won a game or two than them winning 0 games going up against the Eagles. I'd be less worried if the Lions were a little better. Does that make any sense? Of course not. But whatever. That's why it's how I feel. That's how my feelings are about this particular game. I don't have a great feel for the Eagles right now, other than the fact that I don't feel positive. And I certainly look at the Lions. And you look at a team like that and you go, well, they're due, right? And they're coming off one of their best games played so far this year in a very emotional game where Matthew Stafford was taking on his former team, Jared Goff taking on his former team, that whole thing. So, like, when you look and try to break this game down, you try to look at the numbers, you try to look at the way both teams play, and when it comes down to it, the Eagles have to win this game. The Lions could go on and just continue to be terrible, and everyone would be fine with that, at least in here. But if the Eagles win this game, then they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. The Lions lose, they do what they've just been doing all season long. So when you look at a mindset approach to it, all flowers aside and horticulture in general, when you push that aside for a second, you look at the Eagles and you say, this is a game you have to win. Lions can win any game after this. But for the Eagles, this is a must-win game. And I hate using that term in week 8 of a 17-game season, but we kind of have to right now. Put it this way. The Eagles know the outside noise. The Eagles know the criticism that they're falling under. The Eagles know that their coach is falling under heavy criticism, the team in general, the front office and everything. The Eagles' backs are against the wall already. They know this is a game they have to win. There is no way, as I've been saying all week long, I triple dog dare the Eagles to lose this game. And then you light a match, ladies and gentlemen. You see where it goes from there. But Jalen Hurts knows he has to win this game. And that's ultimately why I feel like the Eagles are going to win. And you might say, well, Jalen Hurts hasn't been great this year, and he certainly has not been great this year. But I feel like he is a better quarterback than what we have seen, and I think that goes to a lot of the scheme. This is a game where you could make mistakes schematically in terms of game plan going into this game. Play calling can be bad, but this is such a bad team and young cornerbacks that you're going up against that I feel like the Eagles can get one over on the Lions. We'll get more into that in a second. Excuse me. We'll get more into that in a second. However, I wanted to get into this with a lot went on last night, and I'm kicking around doing this thing at the top of every show, especially when we're going to have the Flyers and the Sixers and the Eagles going on at the same time. About a little segment at the start of the show every day called just get you in the know. And where we just kind of just rattle off exactly what happened the night before, just to kind of put you guys in the know right out of the gate. So here's a little version of that to get things started. I mentioned that the Sixers and the Flyers won. Thursday Night Football we'll get into as well. But the Flyers won last night as they have this West Coast trip. They played against the Vancouver Canucks last night. They get the 2-1 victory in some of the most beautiful puck movement I've seen from the Flyers in quite some time. First goal was a beautiful cross-ice pass from Travis Connected to Sean Couturier, who buried in the top left corner of the net. It was a beautiful play, phenomenal puck movement. Now, I want to make sure I get this right because it started off with Claude Giroux. But the second goal of the game was scored by James Van Riemsdyk. And that was the second goal of the game for the Flyers. It broke a 1-1 tie. All the goals happened in the first period. JVR gets a pass from Sean Couturier across the crease to JVR stick, back of the net, goal. That happened on the power play. But it started at the point with Claude Giroux using the boards. Again, this is about the third goal I've seen already this season where the Flyers use the boards to set up a play on the other side of the net. This time it was Claude Giroux sending it in from the point, deflects it off the boards, goes right to Sean Couturier, then to the stick of JVR for the goal. Phenomenal. Flyers win the game 2-1. Martin Jones was in net for the game. So for the win. So the Flyers get the win. Sixers last night. I would have really preferred Joel Embiid to not have to have gone into the game when the Sixers were winning by 20 in the fourth quarter. But such is life. Joel Embiid has to come into the game last night. That was most of the people's complaints about the game. The Sixers couldn't hold on to it, unfortunately, and they couldn't allow Joel Embiid to just relax and take a break for a second. He has to come back in the game. And look, if you're watching him play, you see that the man is laboring. You see that the man is tending to, even on a drive to the hoop, where he looks like he's 100% healthy. Those little pump fake at the 3-point line, dribbles in, slams it down. You see kind of gingerly walks up the court after a play like that, where strong power move, aggressive, heads up play, whatever you want to call it, goes after it, dunks it, and then you see him gingerly run back. So you know the knee is bothering him. It was tweaked in the first game of the season when he came down on Valanciunas, and we all saw it. He acknowledged as much after the game. Last night he did. So you're watching him play last night, and he does not look 100%. Yeah, he still gets 30 points and 18 rebounds. Like, he was still getting it done. And I think if all of us had our druthers, including Doc Rivers, we would have said, why don't we keep Joel Embiid out of this game? Instead, they cut it to like 4 at one point in this fourth quarter after being down 20, the Pistons. And they roar back in this game to actually make a game of it. And I think it was Tom Moore, friend of the show, who asked the question after the game, saying, did you feel like, when he asked Doc Rivers, did you feel like you had to win this game twice? Once in the third quarter when you thought you were putting the Pistons away, and then another time in the fourth quarter when you feel like you had to squash any momentum the Pistons were building up later in that fourth quarter. And then to end things, the Sixers get a step-back three-pointer from Joel Embiid to really ice the game late. So, again, another instance of him looking healthy but knowing that he's doing that in spurts and still trying to spell his knee as much as possible. So, after the game, Joel Embiid takes to the podium, talked about his knee, and he's saying, still, it's not an excuse.
Like I always say, there's no excuses, but I'm fine. I mean, I can't complain. I'm doing what I love, and every single day I wake up, that's what I want to do. So
you felt compelled to just play through it. You had a big stretch in that second quarter to help put a lead in, and you make a 3-point basket. Just how are you able to kind of overcome this and still be able to beat it out for the team?
Like I always say, there's no excuses, but I'm fine. I mean, I can't complain. I'm doing what I love, and every single day I wake up, that's what I want to do. So that's what I'm gonna keep focusing on. And whatever happens. But I'm fine.
I don't believe that he's fine. Sorry for the little reset there. I don't believe that he's fine. You just watch him play, and you see the bursts, but every time, that feeling that we all have. I got away from this for a while. And now I think other people are doing it again. And that is every time Joel Embiid hits the floor, they start panicking. Is he okay? All right, he's okay. I now think Joel Embiid is, I don't use the word panicking, but Joel Embiid is definitely very cautious and very conscious that every time he goes down, it might be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It might be an issue where he's missing a lot more time. But he's trying to bounce back and he's trying to pull through. He's trying to be a great leader for this team because we already know who they don't have playing, and that would be Benjamin Simmons. So when you watch Joel Embiid, you can see that he's really favoring that knee every single time. And it's funny, when he's asked point blank about the knee, I'm fine, it's fine, no problem, we're all good. But later he'll lead into the knee again. For instance, when he gives the example of when he tripped on Valanciunas' foot in the first game of the season, it was an unfortunate instance. Something else that crossed my mind last night, other than the idea that he's just trying to carry the team without Ben, is last year, Joel Embiid was the best player in the NBA. However, they don't give an award for the best player in the NBA. They give an award for the most valuable player in the NBA, which means attendance matters. And when you see Jokic get the MVP award, but he wasn't the best player, but he played more games, that makes him more valuable, so that's why he won. My thought last night was that Joel Embiid was playing in these games, playing in a game like this against the Pistons, which you would want the Sixers to be able to win, even if they don't have Joel Embiid in the lineup or not have Ben Simmons in the lineup. He's doing this because he wants to get as close to perfect attendance as possible so that doesn't cost him the MVP at the end of the season. That crossed my mind. Well, apparently it crossed Tom Moore's mind as well. Again, friend of the show, who asked him the question about whether or not he was trying to play through these games simply to be more in the running for the MVP award at the end of the year.
No, man, I'm just trying to be available for my teammates, for my team. Every single night, playing hard. Trying to do the best job I can. But that has nothing to do with anything. Every single year I come in with the mindset of playing as many games as I can. And this year, obviously, that first game is unfortunate. It happened. I got hit during the first game, so kind of handicapped me. But now every single year I come in with the mindset that I got to play more games than I have in the past. And so far this year, I'm on the right path. And whatever I'm needed to do, I'm gonna be doing it.
I look, as whatever keeps him in the lineup, I'm fine with. When I saw that he was in the lineup last night, I thought, all right, the man's fighting through it. We all know that he's having issues, but he's fighting through it. God bless him. And then when I saw him not come out in the fourth quarter until later in the fourth quarter when the Pistons started to make a run, my first thought was, Doc, really? This game doesn't matter? And then I thought, they're trying to just stack as many wins as possible right now without Ben Simmons because they know that this is going to be a huge learning curve for a guy like Tyrese Maxey, for instance, who's now running the offense all of a sudden. So that's a couple of things that went through my mind last night when I was watching the Sixers game. But they felt like they had to win this game. I was wishing the Sixers would be able to stomp on the Pistons and be able to just push them aside so you wouldn't have to bring Joel Embiid back into the game. Nonetheless, that's exactly what they had to do. One last thing I want you to hear from Joel Embiid after last night's game. You never hear this. I can't really remember a time I heard this, where usually when a player is talking after a game, they're just talking about what happened that night. They're not talking about what happened 2 nights ago. Like, rarely will you hear teams or players particularly bring up other games where they didn't play well, especially if they didn't play well. You might say, oh, yeah, the Eagles would say, oh, yeah, we're just trying to get back to what we were doing against the Falcons, right? You might hear something like that. But you rarely will hear them hearken back to getting blown out or getting beat up like the Sixers did at the hands of the Knicks the other night, especially in that second quarter. So despite winning and Joel Embiid coming in and playing the role of the hero to squash any comeback from the Pistons and any chance they could win the game, Joel Embiid instead said, guys, it was the Pistons. Like, let's not get excited. Let's talk about what happened with the New York Knicks. This is how Joel Embiid answered the question from Keith Pompey of Inquirer.com after the game, where the question was posed to him, where are you right now? This early in the season, how do you see your team? And this is the way Joel Embiid answered it.
We need to get way better. I mean, no disrespect to Detroit, but they haven't won a game, so we can't be happy about our performance tonight. There's nothing to be happy about. But as a team, we just played. New York. It was a different energy level. They were tougher than us, more physical. They got what they wanted. We couldn't guard our own man. We need to be way better defensively than we have been. We got to guard our own man. Right now, we just haven't been able to do so, and it creates a lot of rotations, and teams are making a lot of threes like you saw tonight. When they made that run, it was because, we can't guard our own man, and they just penetrate, and that causes a lot of help, and now you got to rotate all over the place. We need to be way better on the defensive end, starting with containing our own man.
That was something I needed to hear. I don't like thing that we always hate is when people tell us, what's the old saying, like, don't blank on my shoes and tell me it's raining, right? Don't spit on my shoes. That's what I'll say. Don't spit on my shoes and tell me it's raining. That's what Joel Embiid is doing right there. Like, this game against the Pistons really didn't matter. I mean, still win the game, but even if they win the game, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're not doing something that's exciting. They're doing what they're supposed to do, which is win the game. Good for them. But I love the idea that the Knicks game is still on his mind. And for the people that will, I don't know, rip us or rip people that are looking at this game under the microscope of saying, oh, well, they won, but look, they should have won by more. It's not about beating the Pistons. It's about taking this game and the way they played and taking the way the Sixers played out of it and applying it to how they'll play against the Nets again down the line, or the Knicks again down the line, or eventually when they face the Bucks this year. Like that's where you're kind of grading this team. It's not about the one-on-one matchup. It's not about that game that night. It's like, okay, well, that's how you played tonight, but you're not going to be able to get away with that when you play that way against the Nets or you play against the Bucks again. Like that's not, or even a team like the Miami Heat. Like that's not how you're going to win games. So Joel Embiid having that in the back of his mind, I love, because that's the mindset you have to have if you are going to have a successful team, especially when you're down a three-time All-Star point guard. So now after this, the Hawks are playing the Sixers. The first matchup since Game 7. Boy, oh boy. Can't wait for that one. Saturday night, tomorrow night, I believe that's going down. So look forward to that one. Before we jump on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line and talk to our friend Mike Sielski today, I do want to tell you, I'm not going to give my prediction until later in the show. But here's just along the lines of what I want to see from this Eagles-Lions game on Sunday. And again, just to restate it, I would rather the Lions have like 2 wins under their belt, have the same record as the Eagles. I'd feel better about the Eagles winning this game. But the Eagles are going into this game with a quarterback that still has a lot to prove, a head coach that has a lot to prove. He also has a play caller that has a ton to prove. Jonathan Gannon has a lot to prove. And I was going to say, if you're going to face one team where you have to prove a lot, it's the Detroit Lions. And I remember a Lions game, I want to say 2 years ago. And I said this was a prove-it game. And the Lions, go figure, were trash that year. And I said, that was a prove-it game. And people were like, you can say it's a prove-it game. The Lions mean nothing. No, that's exactly what I'm trying to prove. That the Lions to you mean nothing. Go out there and do what you're supposed to do against the Lions. And that's all I'm asking for again this time. Just prove that you're a better team than the team that hasn't won a game so far this season. Prove you're a better team than a team that has a head coach in Dan Campbell, who, by the way, was talking about biting kneecaps while Nick Sirianni was stumbling, mumbling, fumbling through his introductory press conference. And then you have a guy, like, prove you're better than that. Prove you're better than a team that is threatening to bench their quarterback, saying he's the guy that needs to step up. Prove you're better than that team in turmoil. And that's what Nick Sirianni has to do as a head coach and play caller. That's what Jalen Hurts has to do as a starting quarterback in the league, because now Jalen Hurts actually does have somebody over his shoulder that could provide a better future for the Eagles. I'm not saying that's a guarantee. I'm not saying that's probably what's going to happen, but could. I mean, I would have more confidence in Gardner Minshew than I certainly would in Joe Flacco, for instance. So, yeah, now you have somebody maybe a year or two older than, or 2 years older than you, that could provide a better future if he gets an opportunity to actually play. And when we talked to Adam Kaplan yesterday, and I asked him the question point blank, what would it take for Gardner Minshew to threaten to get starts? It would have to be in the evaluation mode, which could happen a lot sooner rather than later for the Philadelphia Eagles, especially if they lose to the Detroit Lions. So there's a lot to prove. I mentioned the young corners earlier. That's something that I see they have to exploit early in this game. From a pass rush standpoint, the Lions allow, I think, the 9th most sacks in the NFL. Jared Goff is the 9th most sacked quarterback in the NFL, 17 sacks coming into this game. The only problem with that is that Derek Carr was also sacked 17 times going into last week's game against the Eagles, and the Eagles didn't even get a sniff of Derek Carr in that game. So take that for what you will. The other thing is, you got to run the football, folks. It's not just the first drive of the series, like your first drive of the game that you had against the Raiders you threw out the game. The Nick Sirianni seemed to bookend the game with running. Now, I know Miles Sanders, you might not have him for this game, but you still have Boston Scott, you still have Kenny Gainwell, Jordan Howard, who they're high on, whatever. But you still got to be able to run the football. And regardless, I don't care if it's the worst running back in the NFL. You still got to give him carries. And you know why? because despite all the criticism Jalen Hurts has for being under center, he actually looked pretty good when he was under center. And regardless of how bad you might be under center, you're going to be the worst quarterback in the league. If you're getting a linebacker to bite on play action simply because the scheme set that up to, again, have the run set up the pass, well, then you're gonna look pretty damn good. And that's how Jalen Hurts looked when he was under center. And even if he was bad, it's still great to make the defense think you could be running the football. Oh, I don't just have to sit back and wait for that pass. It's going to happen every single time. Yeah, that kind of works out for everybody. So let's do that. So that comes on Nick Sirianni. The other thing I wanted to get into in this is like, if you are going to throw the ball, if you're going to go screen, you're going to have what the heck is wrong with my throat today? Easy comments. I know where you're going with this. But even if you're going to have a lot of screens in this game, you have one of the best guys executing that screen. You've had him sitting on your sidelines for the vast majority of the season in Boston Scott. Let him loose. If you're going to run a bunch of those, there's literally nobody better on this team than running behind blockers than Boston Scott. It doesn't necessarily come down to speed. Like, you can't talk about Kenny Gainwell's speed or Miles Sanders' speed. It comes down to execution. It comes down to timing. And Boston Scott understands the timing of running a screen, a running back screen, a wheel route even, better than anybody in your backfield. So, Nick Sirianni in your screen game, this is the game to do it. Let's see if he actually does it. I'll be crossing my fingers for that. Coming up in a minute, we're going to hear from our friend Mike Sielski. I know a lot of people dying to hear from Mike. We'll get to that in just a second. But right now, let me tell you about my good friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Folks, do what I do when it comes to buying jewelry, when it comes to buying diamonds. There's no better person in Philadelphia to see than my man Steven Singer Jewelers. And you might say, oh, but what about that? I thought everybody hated that guy. Please. You know who hates Steven Singer? There's two groups of people. There's one, the guy that's just putting off getting engaged. It's too expensive. I don't know enough about diamonds. Oh, Steven answers all those questions and makes it easy for me. I hate Steven Singer. That guy, he hates Steven Singer. You know what else hates Steven Singer? Other jewelers. Because while they're marking things way up just to try to gouge you for more money, oh, yeah, knocked a couple $100 off. Yeah, hey, good deal. Put it there, pal. While that's going on, Steven's like, no, cut the BS. We're not doing that. You know what we're doing? We're putting it at the perfect price. That's what we're going to do. So when you walk in, you don't have to feel like you got to negotiate or haggle or you're getting pulled, the wool pulled over your eyes. No, ladies and gentlemen. You walk in, you get the perfect price every single time. You get taken care of by a real jewelry expert at Steven Singer Jewelers. How great is that? Have a jeweler that you trust. Have a jeweler that I trust. Have a jeweler that Philadelphia has trusted for over 40 years. Steven Singer Jeweler, the man is nothing but dominating the love business, ladies and gentlemen. So do what I do. Trust Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row or at IHateStevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping at IHateStevenSinger.com. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, everybody's favorite guest. I don't care what anybody says, and I even tell them that right here. Mike Sielski joins the show. Let's hear from Mike. And joining us right now on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line, our good friend, our favorite guest, as a matter of fact, Mike Sielski joins us from Inquire and Inquire.com. What's up there, Mike?
Favorite guest?
That's right.
You lie through your face.
Well, it's my favorite. I can't say for the comment section that apparently are a bunch of rabid Flyers fans. It's just when they take issue with you, Michael.
You know, the Flyers are scoring at a better, higher pace than they have in years. And I'm the guy who wrote in the middle of last season that team needed somebody handy with nitroglycerin to blow it up. And they did, and we'll just see how it goes.
You know what you are? You're the Flyers.
I'm an instigator. I'm like the guy on Seinfeld. I'm Kramer. He's an instigator.
No, you're the guy that you're the person that we want to come in. Like if a woman is going to go dress shopping, she should take Mike Sielski because Mike Sielski be like, nope, makes your butt look big. Get another one. Like that's what you should do. No,
I'm a lot classier and nicer than that.
You are.
Credit.
This is very true. I can attest to that, my friend. I do want to say this. I see all these pictures on the social media and stuff. I see you posing. You're in a podcast studio. You got all the Kobe Bryant stuff going on, man. You're just on fire right now, my friend.
So we got a podcast coming out in November. It's called I Am Kobe, 10 parts, narrative podcast telling the story of his early life. And that is the precursor to the release of The Rise, Kobe Bryant and the Pursuit of Immortality, which hits bookstores on January 11th.
January. So, yeah. Mark your calendars now, folks. That's
please pre-order that you can find it on Amazon or wherever you get your books online. And excited. It's getting closer and closer, so I'm starting to get excited.
The last time we spoke about it, some people were saying some pretty nice stuff about it. Some pretty big. Bob Costas was chiming in on it, saying it's a great book. Anybody else chime in recently?
Billy King gave it his full-throated endorsement. Trying to think of who else. Marc Bowden, the guy who wrote Black Hawk Down and Killing Pablo and a whole bunch of great books. Gary Smith used to write at Sports Illustrated, Philly guy, went to LaSalle like I did. So we've had some good feedback on the book so far.
Fantastic, man. You know what? I thought of another Mike Sielski publication from a few years ago, and I thought about it this week. I remember you referred to somebody as a potted plant, maybe a ficus. And I was oh man, this is great. Like, we're bringing horticulture back to conversation in Philadelphia sports. And you're the first person I thought of. Michael, what are we doing with this guy? I look, when I look at Doug Peterson, I didn't see a great orator, right? But I will say he crushed his introductory press conference. Like, I wanted to play for him when he was addressing the media during that. But I can't sit across from this Nick Sirianni guy anymore and think to myself, This is the guy? This is the guy that you sat across from, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, and went, this is the guy that's going to lead us to another Super Bowl. Because I am not getting those vibes from Nick Sirianni.
All right, so I agree with you based on what he said the other day. I think it's impossible to have listened to that, what Nick said in his press conference on Wednesday about roots and plants and flowers and all that stuff, and having come away from that feeling really confident that professional football players were going to respond well to that. Okay. I reacted exactly the same way you did. I tweeted something, a GIF from Little Shop of Horrors, right? Where the giant plant that eats people and
Feed Me Seymour.
And all that. Yeah. Feed Me Seymour. Exactly. The one caveat to that, the only caveat, and I've been thinking about this for 2 days. The only caveat that I can come up with is this. I'm 46 years old. Maybe, possibly, a generation younger than mine reacts differently to that. Maybe what he's saying to us in the public is not quite what he's saying to the players in the locker room or after practice, and they are reacting to it differently. I see a lot of things in our society today that people who are between the ages of 22 and 29 seem to think are really cool or really important or respond positively to, that I look at or read and go, I don't get it. That wouldn't have moved me. That wouldn't have inspired me. I think that's corny, et cetera, et cetera. It's possible that players in the locker room are responding differently than you or I would to that. Is it more likely that they're not? I would guess so. I think they're all pros in that locker room. I'm sure there were some people rolling their eyes, some players rolling their eyes. But the only thing, if you're an Eagles fan, that I think you can cling to is maybe they didn't because millennials are different. That's the best I got.
Are we still? No. I was saying the same thing yesterday during the show. I said, okay, when something happens that I think is so unbelievably ridiculous, right? And I just think, I wouldn't have done it that way. I often default to, okay, well, hold on. Why am I wrong? Why would I be wrong in this argument? I didn't explore what you just did. So that's another way that I could, or we could possibly be wrong. But like you said, the betting man is saying, there's probably more guys rolling their eyes than we're going, coach, damn right, we're a bunch of flowers.
Yeah, what's interesting about it, Mark, is that my colleague, Matt Breen, who's one of our Phillies beat writers, immediately after the Sirianni press conference, tweeted out a long quote from Gabe Kapler from 2018 or 19, very similar to what Sirianni said. I think it was when Kapler was speaking at a banquet at the Philadelphia Sports Writers Banquet.
Oh, wow.
And he used virtually the same metaphor, okay? Now, that comes with two caveats or points in response. Number one, Gabe Kapler's 2-year tenure with the Phillies did not go particularly well, and fans did not respond well to him. The flip side of that is he managed a team this season that won 107 games. So does that mean Nick Sirianni's a good coach? No. Does that mean he's coaching well this season? No. Does it mean that people aren't going to make fun of him or poke at him because of what he said publicly? No. But there's a slim chance that, as I said, the players reacted differently, and that as he gains experience, he will grow into becoming a good coach. The question is whether he's going to do that growing here. And I think with each passing week, it becomes less likely.
Do you look? It's hard to say about. Look, it's a 2-win team going up against a 0-win team in the Lions. But do you at least do you possibly have a good feeling about this game going into Detroit?
Yeah, you have to have a good feeling. The Lions are the Lions. Jared Goff is Jared Goff. So this is a game the Eagles really should win. Even though I think we're all kind of, if you follow the team closely, you're looking at this and going, well, if any team's going to lose to the Lions, it's going to be the Eagles.
Right.
But they should win this game. But the last 6-7 weeks have shown that 6 weeks, I guess you'd say, should win is a dicey proposition for this team.
I'm looking at, just looking at some of the numbers there. And one of the things that I was reading was about how Jared Goff is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. 17 times he's been sacked in, I think, in the last 7 games. And then I was thinking about it. Well, Derek Carr was sacked 17 times going into last week, and the Eagles couldn't even sniff him in the pocket, and he was getting rid of the football without any problem whatsoever. So going into this game, do you do the same thing if you're Jonathan Gannon and just sit back, avoid the big play, or do you try to be a little bit more aggressive?
No, of course you should try to be more aggressive. It's Jared Goff. It's the Lions. If you sit back, why give him that out? Why sit back and presume that, we got to guard against the great Jared Goff and that high-powered Lions offense? This isn't Tom Brady and the Bucs. This isn't Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs when they're not turning the ball over. This is a team you can beat and should beat. So no, I wouldn't sit back. And the other factor I think we have to take into consideration here, Mark, is that whether a team is good or bad, any team that's gone through a week like the Eagles had, where they were embarrassed in their previous game, where they've been getting kicked in the teeth all week by the media, everywhere, this team isn't any good, et cetera, et cetera. Often that team kind of rebounds and plays well because this is the NFL and there's a lot of parity, and it doesn't take a whole lot, in a particular game against a particular opponent for one team to kind of vault over the other one. And maybe the Eagles come out of this week and just play really well because they're ticked off. We've seen that time and time again, where when you're ready to write off any NFL team as they're terrible, they're never going to win again, they come back and win a game or win a couple of games. We saw this in 2018 or 19 with the Eagles. I can remember it the year Donovan McNabb, the last time the Eagles went to the NFC Championship game with him. They had that embarrassing game in Baltimore where McNabb got benched and everybody thought the season was over. And they came back the following week and crushed the Arizona Cardinals on Thanksgiving night and ended up rolling to the NFC Championship game. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then unfortunately losing to that Cardinals team in the championship. Yeah. When it comes to the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, how difficult is he to grade when considering Nick Sirianni, the game plan or lack thereof, whatever you want to call it, when you don't really see them running the ball that much, when you see them, quite frankly, ignore the run as opposed to abandon the run, how do you grade Jalen Hurts considering the game plan and the coaching?
I think it's really difficult. The analogy that I would use is, if you remember when you were learning about science in grade school, one of the terms that you learned when you were doing an experiment was the control, right? The control was the thing that stayed the same all the time. And that way you could test the variables against it. The problem the Eagles have is that their head coach and their quarterback are both variables, right? Neither one of them is established. Neither one of them we know enough about to be able to say, well, we know the other one isn't good because we know this one isn't good because the other one, we know everything we need to know about him, right? We don't know that much about Nick Sirianni, and we don't know that much about Jalen Hurts. So it's really hard to evaluate how good they could be. I think that, to me, the rubber will meet the road if and when the Eagles decide they got to bench Jalen Hurts and we see Gardner Minshew. What that would tell us, I think, is a little bit more about Nick Sirianni. Is he calling plays the way he is calling plays now because he doesn't know what to do on offense? Or is he doing it because he sees limitations in Jalen Hurts and is trying to account for them or accommodate him. And until another quarterback plays, we're not going to know that. Maybe Gardner Minshew is much more accurate than Jalen Hurts. Maybe he can actually hit Devontae Smith on a slant. So then we know that when Nick Sirianni calls those plays, a more accurate quarterback can execute them. Or maybe we're going to see the same thing where Sirianni tries to run the whole offense through Gardner Minshew and the Eagles just get their doors blown off. But we're not going to know that until one of those two variables is eliminated.
Wow, you just made me go all the way back to Mr. Peters at Archbishop Wood High School, man.
Sorry, man.
No worries, man. No worries. Mr. Peters was great. I want to switch gears to the basketball world right now, and things have really switched gears on us a little bit here with Ben Simmons, and the subject of mental health has come up again. I will say this: if Ben Simmons is going through something, all the power to him. But how had that not come out sooner than right now? How did that not come out until before he started losing money? To me, I'm trying to make everything make sense in my own idiot brain, and it's very difficult to try to make those two things make sense when surrounding Ben Simmons.
Well, look at it this way. He clearly was going through something mental during the playoffs last year because he didn't want to shoot the ball. He didn't want the ball in his hands. Mm-hmm. Now, whether that rises to the level of a clinical diagnosis of mental instability or illness or whatever you want to call it, maybe something akin to what Lane Johnson, anxiety, depression, the sort of things that Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks and a number of other athletes have dealt with, that's a different story. Yeah, I think we're all skeptical, and we should be skeptical because his agent is Rich Paul. And I've written this in the past, and I'll say it again. Rich Paul is going to do anything he has to do to get any of his clients what that client wants. Ben Simmons does not want to play for the Sixers. All this stuff about Ben was at practice today. He was at shoot-around. He's talked to his teammates. It's all noise. He does not want to be here. And Rich Paul and his team are going to do whatever they have to do to make sure, the length of time that Ben is still here is as beneficial to him as possible, and that eventually the Sixers trade him, which is going to happen. It's only a question of when.
Does it happen before? Basically, has he already played his last game as a Sixer?
I think he has, yes. And I think a trade is going to come sooner than most people think. I know people are talking as if Daryl Morey is going to hold out and hold out and hold out. The Sixers are 2-2 right now. They've beaten the two lousy teams that they played, and they've lost to the two respectable or really good teams that they've played. Okay? That is not a formula for people, either fans or in the ownership offices of the Sixers, for staying patient. Now, I know Daryl Morey wants to get as much as he can in return for Ben Simmons, but they are a lesser team for not having him. You can't just take Ben Simmons out of the lineup and expect to be the same team you were. And the team you were couldn't get past the second round of the playoffs with him. So tell me exactly how it's better for the Sixers as a whole to just have this guy sitting out. Yeah, it makes everybody feel good. Yeah, they're sticking it to Ben. And yeah, maybe they should be the test case in the NBA's quest to disempower players more so that guys like Simmons don't try stunts like this. Mm-hmm. But that ain't causing people to buy tickets, and it ain't filling the seats, and it doesn't mean that they're not going to be 6, 7, 8 games behind the Brooklyn Nets or the Milwaukee Bucks in the standings. And that's how they're going to get evaluated. So I think eventually they're going to have to trade Simmons, and they're going to have to do it soon because the pressure is going to get too high.
I heard Silver talk about this a couple of weeks ago when he said, he was like, I know some people are looking at us like, what can we do as a league? Well, I guess we could raise fines in the next CBA. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that. It's like, maybe that.
It's ridiculous for Adam Silver to even talk about this. He's part of the reason that this situation exists. Mm-hmm. The entire league decided it was going to empower individual players, and that's fine. More power to the players. You think that you're going to make your money on Twitter. You think the league, the NBA is going to be the league of Twitter and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what's happening? Number one, their ratings are plummeting because nobody cares about the teams and nobody cares about the games. It's all about who doesn't like who. Is James Harden getting along with Kyrie Irving? Where does Kevin Durant want to play? LeBron James, blah, blah, blah. Nobody, when the NBA was at its peak, it was Lakers against Celtics, Bulls against everybody, Michael Jordan, et cetera, et cetera. Guys stayed in teams in particular cities and with particular teams for a long time. That's gone. And here we are. So Adam Silver can bemoan this situation all he wanted. He led his league into this.
Mike, real quick, I want to close with what we started with, and that was some Flyers conversation. I'm getting excited about this Flyers team. At the time we talk right now, the Sixers and Pistons are just tipping off. Flyers are playing later tonight. What should be? I'm excited for the Flyers. What should my realistic expectations be for this Flyers season?
They should make the playoffs, and then all bets are off from there, as it is for every situation in every NHL postseason.
Okay.
You never know what's gonna happen. If Carter Hart gets hot and plays the way Carter Hart can, which we're seeing flashes of, obviously, then they could definitely make a run, because I think their roster is stronger now than it was last year or even 2 years ago when they were a pretty good team.
I agree wholeheartedly. Somebody asked me that last night on Twitter. I said, if Flyers, they're a playoff team, maybe win a series. So I'm glad I'm not going top shelf when it comes to the Flyers. No pun intended. That was an accident. Sorry. Mike Sielski, Inquirer.com. Make sure you guys check him out. January 11th?
January 11th for the book. November 13th for the podcast.
Fantastic. How are you liking the podcast so far? How are you liking the podcast?
I writing the scripts is kind of fun, and I get to narrate it, which is kind of cool. So it's been cool. It's been a different experience. I really enjoyed it.
In your mind, are you like more of a Liev Schreiber? Are you a Morgan Freeman? Like, who are you?
Hope is the best of it is a good thing. Maybe the best of things. And no hope ever, and no good thing ever dies. I'm sorry. Now I'm messing up the lines from, one of the 5 best movies ever made.
Shawshank.
Yeah.
Now I'm clipping that. I'll use that from now on.
Yeah, we definitely should have got Morgan Freeman to narrate this podcast.
Maybe I just missed my friend. Anyway,
well done.
But I do what I can. Mike Sielski, Inquirer.com. Check him out. All things Mike Sielski. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you joining us on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line.
Thanks, Mark. Enjoyed it.
Your comments are just off the charts, folks. They're just off the chart comments. We'll get to those in just a second. Thanks to Mike Sielski for joining us on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line. The Rothman Orthopaedics guest line. Let me tell you about the great people of Rothman Orthopaedics, because they are just fantastic. For everything you need, Rothman Orthopaedics is where you need to go. When you have an orthopedic issue, you need a physician who eats, sleeps, and breathes orthopedics. You need an exceptionally specialized Rothman Orthopaedics physician. They not only specialize in orthopedics, but each of their physicians only focuses in on one area of the body, which means you can have the confidence to get past the pain and be what you were. Visit them in one of their 30-plus locations in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, including 4 orthopedic-only urgent cares. Learn more at RothmanOrtho.com. That's RothmanOrtho.com. How about our friends at BetQL? Hopefully you guys got in on a little Thursday night football. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the morning rush. But hopefully you used BetQL for all your betting needs when it comes to getting the edge over your sportsbook. You need to download the BetQL app right now, the only app you'll need to make the smart bets. Their best bets computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you the best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports, and they give you the reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from point spreads, over-unders, and player props. You don't want to use the model and prefer to do your own research? BetQL has all the necessary tools for your betting research needs. Everything from sharp data, line movement, team summaries as well. BetQL has all the necessary tools for that. Enjoy the sharp data, everything they have going on. You need to download the app in the App Store or Google Play Store now. That's Google Play Store for the BetQL app. Let me tell you about Steak in Maine in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Just fantastic. SteakInMaine.com for more information. Everything that you can imagine. Just a beautiful 2-pound tomahawk steak sitting there at the ready with that delicious Pinot Noir for a fine wine pairing. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. SteakInMaine.com for more information. Here's what they got for you. They got a delicious 2-pound tomahawk steak, freshly prepared sushi, fresh cuts of meat, fresh seafood. It's all fresh there at Steak in Maine. My man Tony Cavada knows how to put himself together a fine meal for you. And whether you like to dine in their outdoor patio, their casual bar, their sports bar there, the sushi bar, the steakhouse, it's a great place, man. Got to tell you, Steak in Maine, SteakInMaine.com. Tell you right now about all the stuff going on Steak in Maine. You can go to SteakInMaine.com. It's voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel, so you know it has to be fantastic. Also want to tell you about our friends at WinView. Last night I got a WinView challenge from a friend of mine. I won. He was kicking my butt in fantasy. I don't know why he wanted to double down. Wanted to double down. I had Zach Ertz last night. He had James Conner. So he was doing a lot better than I was, to say the least. Now, Ertz did turn it on late. Couple of former Eagles, interesting games last night. We'll get to that, like I said, in our morning rush. But I will tell you this. All that's going on when it comes to the great people of Windview, I tell you, it's a lot of fun to challenge your friends on these different challenges, these different things you could do on the WinView app. Download the WinView app. It's not daily fantasy. It's not a sports book. It's just a way for you and your friends to put a little stake, a little skin in the game, if you will, when it comes to outside your fantasy football leagues, when it comes to all that stuff. It's like if your friend thinks they know everything about sports, challenge them to a bet and see if they can walk the walk as well as they talk the talk. Enjoy WinView. Download the WinView app right now and let the games begin, ladies and gentlemen. How about our friends over at PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show. Let's do our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Maine at steakandmaine.com. Let's jump on in. See how the water is, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Dan's leading it off, saying good morning. Dan, I don't know what I did with the picture. I know it's on Twitter. People can check it out. You and your boy going as Baby Ben to the Sixers game. Just adorable. You both looked adorable. Just adorable. All right. Mally's checking in. Howie and Sielski came from the same test tube. Come on, Mally. April, I need a new Disco Tank interview. He has thoughts about the Flowers BS. If there's one thing, I'm sorry to the people on the pod, this is going to be a very visual thing. There's one look Tank kind of gives. I could accurately describe it, actually. You know what? It's not the raised eyebrow necessarily. I believe it's an attempt at a raised eyebrow, but really what he does is he bugs one eye out of his head. I think it's it's the left eye, and the right eye just kind of closes, and he just kind of looks at you like you're crazy. So to the people at home, let me see if I can do this right. The people watching, it's like that. It's like almost a Popeye. I don't know. Whatever. But anyway, that you get the idea. That's more of what Tank's reaction would be, Hollis Thomas's reaction would be to Nick Sirianni coming in his locker room and saying, hey, how about these flowers, right? We're all flowers. We all got roots and stuff and flowers and stuff, right? No? Okay. And then Tank, and there you go. Move on from there. Will Voracek be there too? I'm not inviting Voracek anywhere. He's out. We're getting a playoff team. We're getting playoff team Lions this week. Well, I mean, the Eagles will make them look like a playoff team. Come on, Mally. I put it this way. I don't have a good feel. The Eagles are -3.5 road favorites against the Lions, and I still don't feel good about them. Like, how can you? Like, there's no, like, even, let's see, they have one of their wins was a dominant win week 1 against the Falcons, but the Falcons also suck. So there you go. And then the other was a scrappy come-from-behind win against the Carolina Panthers. We're getting blown out of the water all of a sudden. Please. I can't feel good about this game. Lions getting their first win. It does. I'm trying, like, any feeling of optimism or pessimism. I'm going, oh, that's just because you follow the Eagles and you know they're not that good. It's not a law of averages thing. Well, all of a sudden the Lions are just due for a win. Like, that's not happening. Like, I can't look at the Lions and say this is the game they win. I can't do that. I can look at the Eagles and be like, oh, I can see them losing this game. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I realize that. But it's more like I can't see the Lions taking a game from the Eagles because bad teams find a way to lose. And I can't say, like, it's funny with the Eagles, I can't say that they found ways to lose. I feel like they have more like stayed away from things that they've done well. Like, they've lost because they haven't deserved to win. Like, I know that's like splitting hairs, but I look at a Lions team and just see a snake-bitten team that can't win. I look at an Eagles team that just refuses to get better. I mean, you can talk about penalties. They haven't gotten as many penalties as they did in the first 3 weeks of the season, first 4 weeks of the season. But the Eagles, to me, aren't a team that find ways to lose. If they lose, it's because they lose from the standpoint. Like, they don't let games slip away from them. They're just not that good. They're not. They force themselves to be in it at the end of a game. And that's good. At least you're putting up numbers at some point, albeit garbage time. But it's not like they should have won that game. Like the Chiefs, for instance. They were down 5 points in the fourth quarter. Did that ever feel like a game they were going to win? the Buccaneers, they ended up covering against Tom Brady and the Bucs on Thursday night. But did that ever feel like that was a game they were threatening to win? No. So it's not a matter of them letting wins slip away. It's a matter of them just not being good enough. The Lions are a stake-bitten team that just can't get a win. And yes, I hope it's not against the Eagles as well. Peter, thank God the Eagles game will not be televised in my area. I can enjoy the misery listening to Maryland Mike over ribs and beer. Good for you, Peter. Lucky you. Marc, stop smoking that cheap stuff. I knew it. I knew it the minute I coughed again. I was going to get the weed references. That's what. Peter, if you want to torment yourself, there will be a few Facebook groups that stream the games. That's how I watch them when the Panthers are the main game. Gotcha. She's down in Carolina, for those that don't know. Saw who the guest was, had to go bum a cigarette, and I don't even smoke cigarettes. Mally, why would Mike force you to cigarettes when you smoke at a ganj as often as you do? April, thanks for the suggestion. Look at this. People helping people in the chat. Mike Johnson. Sixers are facing those damn Hawks. I hate those freaking Hawks. Mike, I agree with you. Rather watch the Hawks than Sielski. Mally, come on, man. Mike, indeed. Mally, why Sielski head looks too small for his body? What the hell's wrong with you people? I'd rather watch the Hawks than the Lions get their first win over the Eagles. Mike, you're not wrong. Mike Johnson, not Sielski. Copy. I wish YouTube would let us use GIFs. I agree. Are you trying to at YouTube? Humble Philly Bull. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot! Can't take him serious. Like, here's the thing. I didn't jump on the hate train with Nick Sirianni at rock, paper, scissors. I actually loved that thing. I love the rock, paper, scissors idea. You got to do Zoom, right? You got to do everything virtually. You got to test these guys competitive somehow. I love that idea. Way to be creative. However, the flower thing is just, what are we doing over here? I'm sorry, huh? I don't get it. The team doesn't listen to words. The word he says. I just saw who's their tight end? Toth, is that his name? Toll? The hell's that other tight end's name? Anyway, he was just speaking glowingly about Nick Sirianni, and I'm like, you're a Nick Sirianni of a player. Like, you're just happy to be here. Of course, you're going to be backing your head coach. That's politically, it's the best idea for you. The team doesn't listen to a word he says. And Mally is Sielski. You people are hilarious. Rich Paul has no soul. He will say and do anything. April, I agree with you. Ray is saying, is that the best the Sixers could do is to re-sign Danny Green? He's done nothing. Wouldn't it look good for... Oh, McCall Bridges is just so... like, he should have been a Sixer. He was a Sixer for 20 seconds, and they ended up trading him. His mom was like working in the ticket office, whatever she was doing. Like, the fact that they like that, like, people want to talk about Brett Brown and his lasting legacy. That's the lasting legacy of Brett Brown. All right, it's not just the fact that he took us through the process of those years and all that stuff, but it's more so the fact that that trade happened on draft night with no general manager, and that was Brett Brown's call. What the hell? And Zaire, I know, unforeseen health issues, but still, I would have much rather, even at the time being, had McCall Bridges. And this is from a Temple guy who's saying more Nova people, so you know it's true. PJ did still love you though. Poor. We're back to the Wayfair stuff. There you go. Luigi, where you been, buddy? Been on the podcast the last few weeks. Nice to have you back, Luigi. How are you? I hated the Bridges trade. Mally, as did I. Luigi thought Sielski might have got you. There you go. Luigi, welcome back to the chat. No weather girl. You gave us Sielski. Luigi, mi scusi. Fars has nicknames for weed? What? Facts. What are we talking about here? Nothing makes sense when it comes to the Eagles this year. I agree with you. Then Thomas says, facts at Mike Johnson. Thomas then says, sounds illegal. Fars has nicknames for weed. He smokes so much. I've got a scary Hollywood costume this year. Sielski. Kevin, very nice. I see what you did there. Smash that like button. It's pouring rain here. Could have used a weather girl. Oh, I'm sorry, April. You know, we'll make sure we have a weather girl for the Carolinas as well. That's what we'll do the next time we have a weather girl. I promise you that. Thanks to everyone that checked in our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Maine at steakandmaine.com. Let's move on over to our Morning Rush segment brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. First, I want to say this. Thanks again to Sky Motorcars for giving us the Steven Nelson earlier in the week. I heard Steven Nelson getting asked at his press conference about what he said on this show, which was that Jonathan Gannon's defense, his scheme is genius. His philosophy is genius, which is don't allow the big play. Every once in a while, I think it would behoove a team to go for the big play. Not allow the big play, but go for the big play. And in turn, sometimes you're going to allow a big play. That happens. However, what if a defense actually was aggressive and went after a quarterback like they could go after a quarterback like Jared Goff, for instance? That would make the world a better place as far as I'm concerned, as we were just talking about with everybody's favorite guest, Mike Sielski. But Steven Nelson got into that with us earlier in the week about how Jonathan Gannon's scheme philosophy was genius. I think it might be a good thing to roll the dice every once in a while and be aggressive and make the offense react to you. It's very similar to the offense, the Eagles' offense, that is. When we're talking about all the pass plays and screen plays from Nick Sirianni and all that and not running the football, the defense then knows what's coming next. The same thing on defense if you're Jonathan Gannon and you're the Eagles' defense. If you continuously do the same thing and not apply pressure to the quarterback, guess what you're going to be able to do? A guy like Derek Carr, who was going through a rough patch, jumps out of the rough patch over his last two games, one of them against you, because your whole defense is based on sitting back and letting the offense make plays. If I'm even an average quarterback, I am going to pick you apart if you're going to just sit back and let me make plays. If I know I got 2 seconds every single time in the pocket, 1, 2, balls out. It's easy for me. Just as easy as, 31 of 34 completions, like 90-some% for Derek Carr against the Eagles? Because he knew he was never getting pressure. Ridiculous. Damn ridiculous. Oh, this is what I want to get to here in our Morning Rush segment. Zach Ertz last night, great final drive for the Cardinals to put them in position to at least get a game-tying field goal down 24-21. Zach Ertz made 2 or 3 catches on that drive alone, got some yards after the catch as well, had himself a nice little game, put them in position to at least tie the game. Kyler Murray drops back. A.J. Green in his sights. One-on-one coverage on the outside with Rasul Douglas, former Eagles cornerback. Kyler Murray drops back, throws it to A.J. Green. A.J. Green stopped playing. Rasul Douglas continued playing and comes up with the game-sealing interception in the end zone. And the Packers are able to hand the Cardinals the first loss of their season. Packers now 7-1. Cardinals now 7-1. 7 straight wins for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, despite not having his marquee wide receivers, most notably Devontae Adams, who was still in COVID protocol. They didn't bring Scantling back because he was still coming back from a hamstring injury, so they didn't want to rush him back. The one more who they didn't have playing, wide receiver they didn't have playing, name's escaping me right now, but he was in, I think, close contact protocol with COVID because he was around the Adams. So you're down 3 wide receivers in that game, and Aaron Rodgers is like, yeah, sure, no problem. The first drive of the game that they put together, I think, lasted 8 minutes or 9 minutes. He was just keeping the offense on the field, keeping their defense off the field, keeping Kyler Murray off the field. And that's what you can do when you're as great as Aaron Rodgers. Great quarterbacks can mask a lot of issues. Just waiting for the Eagles to be able to get that great quarterback. Let's see how they do on Sunday, folks. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to ride the wave of negativity. I'm not going to say that they're going to lose their minds against the Lions and lose this game. The Eagles will beat the Lions on Sunday by a score of 24-23. The Lions cover. Eagles barely squeak it out. They're going to win, but it's going to be what I like to call a moral loss. There are no moral victories, but I certainly believe in moral losses. Eagles will win, but we won't feel good about it. But they'll get the win. There you go. 24-23 in an ugly, disgusting, what the hell is Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon? What are they doing type of game. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Much appreciated. Also, Miles Sanders, just want to say, in case you didn't know already, didn't practice this week. We'll see what happens today. Didn't practice. So we'll see what goes on for today. But I doubt it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks to everybody that chimed in on our social media check-in in our comment section. Make sure you guys subscribe. Much appreciated. Fars enjoy Bob Marley cover concert. Kevin, thank you. You guys are nuts. Good to have all you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My thanks to Jim Hyden, who produced the program, did a fine job. This is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. My name is Marc Farzetta from the Steven Singer Studios. Go Sixers, go Flyers, go Birds. Let's hope for a win to talk about on Monday. Take it easy, everybody.